Eventually, you could do a Patreon for it.
Oh God, no! I don't think we'll ever
No.
get that good.
Yeah. If 1% of our 20 listeners be like, hey, that dollar will go towards something. We'll save up for like 10 years and then get like
A new mic
yeah.
to share. What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 35 of Podcast Reload. It's the general gaming podcast by Sifted.net subscribers, where we invite community guests onto the show to talk about the games industry in all its weird ways. I am your host, Vin Hill, and joining me as always is, of course, my co-host and fellow Japan dweller. Not my fellow Japan dweller anymore, though, because solo Japan dweller, because I now live in America. Wow, I'm going to get this right one day. Evan Piotrowski. Hello, sir.
Hello.
And joining us as well is, of course, our community guest, and this week we are joined by the one and only Mitch.
Hello, what's up, guys?
The sky and clouds and aeroplanes occasionally.
And Zelda.
And Zelda, apparently. That's what we say. All right, cool. Community corrections updates. Have we got anything, Evan?
Yes, we do.
Suck at timing, and
yeah.
This is now a bi-weekly podcast. A bi-weekly Yakuza podcast, apparently. Yeah, we apologize.
No, podcast reload Fortnite. That's the subtitle.
We should just call it that and have done with it.
Yeah, and then if we ended up recording a podcast the next week, we'll just hold off releasing it until the week after. Stagger it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, how many podcasts out there do actually do bi-weekly? It's either once a week or none, right?
8-4 Play, they do bi-weekly.
Well, I'll eat my words.
I mean, that's one example, but
right.
Oh, we do have one more correction. Last week, I had said that some prime minister in Europe made a comment about possibly banning pineapple on pizza. It was actually the president of Iceland, so it wasn't even a prime minister, and it wasn't from Europe.
And I have to say, what a terrible man, because pineapple on pizza is fantastic.
Thank you very much, Finn. You're welcome on any time. I meant Mitch.
Wow. This is going well. And this is why people do it weekly, so they don't fall off the wagon.
Yeah.
Forget how to do it every week.
Yep, that's what happens. But yeah, it was the president of Iceland who had mentioned offhand it got caught on camera or picked up on some sort of recording about banning pineapple.
Shit, Evan. I couldn't sleep that night when you said that, and I knew you were wrong, but I'm glad that you corrected. You were the bigger man, and you came on here and you corrected yourself. I'm proud of you, son.
That's why I'm here.
Is that your first correction? I think you guys don't have corrections rarely.
We do sometimes.
No, the only corrections are self-corrections because no one really gives a shit.
No one ever calls us out on us.
Yeah.
So I think maybe we've had one. Who cares?
We should just call it. Yeah. All right, moving on.
Yeah, moving on. Mitch, we got a game for you, man.
Awesome.
We're going to rip out your soul and feed it to the dogs, basically. What we're going to do, we're going to play a game of Save or Kill. In Save or Kill, we basically give you two things from the game's industry. It can be a game, be a person, it can be a franchise, it can be absolutely anything. And you have to choose whether you're going to save or kill it. But if you do save it, you have to know that you throw the other one into the gates of oblivion and you never see it again. Are you ready, sir?
Yes.
Okay, number one. Persona or Yakuza?
Oh. I've not played Yakuza. And
So Persona it is, right?
And Persona looks so awesome. I played the fourth one, and Persona 4. I'm so excited for Persona 5, so I'm going to say Persona.
Good man. That's the end of the Yakuza podcast, Evan.
Gee, Mitch, we were going so. This is getting on so well with the pineapple, and then you had to go and do that.
Do you eat pineapple in Yakuza?
Oh,
I would not be surprised.
I'll get back to you on that. I'll check it out.
Yeah, new flavor incoming. All right, next one. Assassin's Creed or Prince of Persia?
Oh, Prince of Persia, hands down.
Oh, fair enough. Fez or Undertale?
Ooh.
I like that one.
I haven't played either, but I've seen plenty of both. I would say Undertale.
Ooh, nice. Okay, Dishonored or Thief?
Oh, I go Dishonored. I like the teleportation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Final Fantasy or Pokemon?
Ooh, that's probably the hardest one. Uh, I can never forget my first Game Boy, like the old block Game Boy, so I gotta say Pokemon.
Oh God. Okay, what else have we got? We've got Call of Duty or Battlefield.
Based off the current trend, I like Battlefield.
Fair play. And the last one, we'll go with Halo or God of War.
Halo because of the multiplayer, but that's like Halo 1 through 3. The rest is crap.
Good man. I concur. Awesome. That concludes. Evan, have you got any extras in there that you want to throw at him? You're allowed to say no.
Event Horizon. That's a fucking
Wow,
horror movie.
nailed it.
Horizon or Breath of the Wild. And we will answer that question in our first topic.
Amen. Evan, do you want to kick us off? What are we talking about?
All right, so we're actually going to combine our podcast reload topic. Usually the guest brings their topic up first, but we're going to switch it around a bit because we're basically all going to be talking about what we've been playing, and we're going to make that our first topic. Because coincidentally, let's see, I have been playing Zelda Breath of the Wild on the Wii U. Vin, what have you been playing?
I've been playing Horizon Zero Dawn.
Okay, and then Mitch, what have you been playing?
I'm playing Zelda on the Switch and then also Horizon Zero Dawn.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Although I have to give one little shout out to what else I've been playing really quickly
sure.
before we kick this off. Last podcast I mentioned that I was playing Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and I said it was pretty good. I completely retract that. I hate it.
What?
Yeah.
I love. I don't know.
Are you being serious?
Yeah. I mean, it got to a point where that game was holding my hand so much that I turned it off. I quit it. I was just like, I'm done with this. I'm so done with this. Every area that I walked in, Lara just instantly was just saying, "Oh, I need to do this," like straight away, every single area, and I was just like, "Come on, like let me play the game." Every time I went into the little map or whatever, it just highlighted exactly where you need to go. It tells you exactly what you need to do, and there was just no mystery to the game whatsoever, and it just killed it. Completely killed it. And I've yet to finish it.
How was the reboot, the 2013 reboot? Did they do any of that? I played through that game. I just don't remember.
I think they did, but it wasn't. The only thing that they did in the original Tomb Raider really was the if you went into like inspection mode or whatever, you like it highlighted some things, but it didn't highlight absolutely like only the essential stuff like it does in the new one.
I guess I kind of ignored the hand holding that I got over it because the rest of it, I think it's fantastic, especially the way it, and we'll talk about it in the second topic, but yeah, I actually really like the direction they're going with Tomb Raider. I agree with the hand holding, but I guess I blocked it out, so I didn't really notice it as much.
The game looks beautiful. It plays fine. You know, the level design are pretty decent. Like it's not that bad. But just the hand holding, man, it just killed it. Like I was just getting physically angry. I was just like, would you stop it? Like I would just walk into an area and Alara would be like, I need to climb that rope and get over there. I'm like, why did you tell me that? Like, what is the point of this game?
Yeah.
It's useless. So yeah. Anyway.
I just
back on topic.
Okay, just one thing.
To mention that
one thing that reminds me of it, probably like the most egregious thing that I've ever seen in a video game was in recent memory. I think it was Batman Arkham Origins.
Right, same thing.
The one it happened. It's like takes place on Christmas Eve, I believe. The second you get control of Batman, it says hold the analog stick forward to walk. I was like, Jesus. Oh my god, this is what we've become. But whatever, yeah. No, that's disappointing.
If you push A or X, you jump. Did you know that?
Well, to play a little tiny devil's advocate, just a tiny bit, like it is kind of nice to know, hey, the cutscene's over, it's time for gameplay. Where sometimes you could stand there for a good minute and be like, am I supposed to do something right now? Oh, I can press the forward button right now. Oh, okay. Now I have control of my character.
For me, naturally, like in a lot of games where there's a cutscene and then the camera kind of goes around to the back of the player, I immediately start seeing if I'm able to control it. Like,
This is why we have cinema lines in games. Like the black bars at the top and bottom. Like when the cutscene is on, the cinema lines are there, and then when the cinema lines disappear, you know that you're controlling the character. Done. Like you don't have to give me a prompt. You don't have to say, "Hey, you can now walk forward."
We could make this easier and just say put an option in to turn all that stuff off, and then we make it both people happy.
That would work.
That's exactly what I wanted in Tomb Raider, and that's what I was going to sort of finish off with. If Rise of the Tomb Raider literally had an option in the options where it was just said, turn off all hints from Lara, from everything, I would enjoy that game immensely, like way more than I was just getting frustrated and annoyed with it. It's just
that's disappointing. Anyway,
I mean, yeah, it's really it's annoying as hell, man.
I still want to play that game because I absolutely loved the 2013 reboot one, but
I would still play it. Still play it.
Okay.
It's a $20-$30 game, in my opinion.
Right, okay, and that's pretty much what it costs right now, right?
Yep.
So
I would not pay a penny more in it. But yeah, anyway,
All
Horizon.
right, so pushing forward, since we've all basically been playing the 2 major releases of the last week, and not only that, another thing is both games are open world games that were released in the same week, and you have your bow, and there's a lot of the really massive worlds, expansive, lots of wildlife, lots of exploration. And I'm not saying, like, everyone's been comparing these games like in terms of the fidelity, which is not really where I want to go with it. We can bring it up, but there's a lot of. I'm not saying that they need to be. We need to go like head to head in every single category with these games, but there's a lot of parallels, I would say. Mm-hmm. And so I just think it all kind of worked out that we've all played these games, and I just think it's cool that we could just jump in and kind of talk about what we like about these games, and then maybe ask questions to each other, because I think Mitch, you're kind of like the in between. You've played both, and I think we can just go from there. So I don't know, Mitch, do you want to start out with? I don't know, like, how do you guys want to tackle this? How do I want to start out with this?
Let's take it with Zelda first.
Okay.
Let's just take one, because a lot of people have been playing it this week, obviously. It's a new console, new launch. There's a lot of buzz around the Switch, as it was anyway, so I think naturally that's going to sort of roll into the Zelda stuff as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting from my perspective, like, looking at it, because I haven't played Zelda, but I can see from all the reviews it's getting 10 out of 10s. You've been playing it on the Wii U, right, Evan?
Yes.
And obviously Mitch has been playing on the Switch, so I don't know if you watched any comparisons or anything, Evan. Like, do you see any major differences, or are you happy with the Wii U version? Is it noticeably laggy or anything, or is it a solid, like, yeah, it's a Wii U experience, and it's not. I wouldn't have. I think what I'm trying to get to is, like, do you regret not getting a Switch and playing on that?
No, I don't. And interestingly enough, on Thursday, I met a friend at Starbucks, and he brought his Switch with him, and I actually played Zelda on the Switch as well. So I've actually played both versions, and one of the first villages you get into in that game, the frame rate on the Wii U is horrendous. It's like, I'm talking teens. Like, that game chugs like a fucking 4th-year frat boy. It's like really, really bad. So much so, like, that was within the first couple hours of playing. Mm-hmm. And once I hit that village, I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. And luckily, when you're out in the world, you don't see that stuff. Like, there's pop-in, and I just got used to it. There's like kind of a fog in the distance, almost like Silent Hill-esque, but they do a good job to just not make it stand out. It's not as egregious as villages are bad, and heavily wooded areas like forests are pretty bad.
Fair enough.
So what I did was, when my friend brought his Switch over, I said, hey, can I play this for a second? He said, sure. I went to the village that is the most egregious in terms of in low frame rate, and I sat in one space and spun the camera, and there were no issues.
Oh, okay.
So
I've heard, like, from the videos and all the articles I've seen, I've heard that the Wii U takes a hit in certain areas, but then the Switch does the same thing but the opposite. So the Switch will take a hit in areas which the Wii U doesn't.
Well, in the
It's
Switch,
like they're optimized in weird ways.
Well, in the Switch, it runs really well in handheld mode, and everyone that's been saying that it does, they're right. Like it runs beautiful, but then once you go into the dock station, that's where it might get laggy. I've only docked it once, like I told you guys earlier, and so I didn't run into any lag at that time, but it does run really, really well in handheld mode. I think I once ran into it where it jittered for a second, but that was like, I don't even know what was going on in that moment, but I was like, oh, no big deal, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, so basically there are sections in that game where it's impossible to look past the frame rate because it does affect the way how you play the game, and it's it sucks because I just remember going through this village. I'm like, I would love to see what this village looks like at least 30 frames per second consistently, Mm-hmm. But looking past the frame rate stuff, like it is an issue and it needs to be mentioned. The game's amazing. I did not think I would enjoy this game as much as I have. I bought the game last Friday when it came out. I worked late, got home at about 8:30, started playing it. So I've had it for a week. I've been playing for 52 hours in a week.
Damn. Nailed it. That's great.
I played it for 12 hours straight on Sunday, and basically my entire life for the last week has been eat, sleep, go to work, I guess, and then come home and play Zelda. Like I think about the game constantly. I remember someone at work was talking to me, and I was just thinking, some guy mentioned there's something on the top of that mountain, but so I need to go hunting for some mushrooms and some other stuff and cook some stuff that heightens my freeze resistance so I can climb the mountain and see what's up there. Like, I just wasn't even paying attention. I really feel like this is one of those games that it makes me feel like a kid in the way that when you're so into a game when you're a kid, you'd wake up early before school to get in like even 30 minutes and then press pause and then come back home and play it. Like, that's how I feel about this game, and I haven't felt that way about a game in a really, really long time.
That's good, though, because I know you recently just played through 2 Zeldas on the Wii U, did you? Was that? Or on the Wii, sorry? Like, you mentioned you played
Yeah,
Twilight
I beat
Princess.
Skyward Sword. I beat Skyward Sword just in January. And then,
that one that much,
last year... Oh, that game sucks. Right. That game is garbage. The
point,
dungeons are amazing. Everything else about that game is terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
That's good to hear, because we haven't had a really good Zelda game in probably since Wind Waker, in my opinion. That was probably the last really good one. So it's good that it's sort of come back to form. But how about you, Mitch? Like, how are you feeling about the game?
I really like the game. I'm going to say right now it doesn't deserve a 10 out of 10. And if an example I saw was Easy Allies in their review, they actually show the jitter in the frame rate. So if you wanted to see an example, just go to their review because they talk about it, and they justifiably did not give it a perfect score because of that. And I actually appreciated them more for that rather than giving it a perfect score, because it really doesn't deserve it. It's a fantastic game, don't get me wrong. I really am enjoying it. There are some things that are really bugging me about the game, but it's kind of me, how I like to play games. I think the game is too big, and I think their game is too big because I think they justified making this game big by putting shrines all over the place. Not saying the shrines aren't fun; they're fantastic. And when people are saying there's not really many dungeons, they're right. It's kind of the shrines plus the 4 dungeons that you really do. But they basically are justifying making this world super big by putting these shrines all over the place. And
that's too bad.
And then like there are times where you're like going around and it's completely empty, and maybe they put one person there or one person here to justify making that space worth it. The scale on the system itself is fantastic, though. Like to see that you can fit that big of a world is really cool, and it's on a handheld of all things. Like that is what makes the game super impressive to me. The one besides the bigness, the one other complaint I have about it is I think it they don't explain enough to you. Like for a long time, I didn't know about cooking. Like I had to find out from other videos that I watched about cooking, because I was going into those places where you needed like clothes, and I was trying to run through them as fast as possible. I was trying to eat as much food as possible to gain back health, and it was frustrating.
Oh, you were just eating like raw ingredients like mushrooms and apples. Oh man, yeah, that's yeah. Well,
this is a weird thing though, because like from the reviews and stuff which I've read and all the videos I've seen, there's a lot of people. It's sort of 50-50 down the middle. There's a lot of people saying it's a bit ambiguous in how it explains certain systems, and then there's like the other half of people saying, no, it's great. I love the fact that it doesn't tell me anything, doesn't hold my hand, and it's back to the original Zelda, in the NES, where you're just thrown into this world. It's like, all right, good luck, have fun, boys. And it's like, all right, sword, where do I get that? Like sort of thing. So
yeah, and I'm not
50-50, I guess.
I'm kind of not a fan of the whole weapon management thing. I kind of like having one weapon and then just being able to use it the whole time. But I get it in the end. It works out where you do end up having enough weapons. But sometimes I've had moments where I'm like, I'm running out of weapons here and I need more powerful weapons in this moment. But I spent about, 20 hours? And about 10 to 15 of those hours was just me going to every single spot and being able to open up the whole map. So like that's how much time it takes, and I have not done very many regular mission things, and so that you can kind of tell on the scale of like how big the game really is when it takes 10 hours to get to the whole map and be able to do all those kinds of things. But like all the other things are great. Like the different things you can do in the game, the freedom it gives you is really excellent. I just wish they did a little bit more to help you with it, to understand some of the mechanics better.
Okay.
Because
well,
they do let your imagination go wild.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, it's interesting that you feel that way about the open world, and I actually didn't feel like that at all. So I think that's something we can talk about in topic 2, because that's more about the size of the world. Right. That's interesting.
That's cool. Like the only other question I've got for you guys really is like the sort of closing question is like, how's the loop? The actual gameplay loop of the game. So you're in the world and you run into some monsters and just the combat and stuff and picking stuff up. Like, how is that like 5-minute loop over and over again? Because if you're playing this game for like 52 hours, you said, Evan, like is it a good loop? Like, does it feel good?
Yeah. I love it. Like, I can go out into that world and I just keep finding new things to do. And the other day I was trying to, I don't really want to spoil anything. I had to find a specific location by just looking at a picture. And so just judging from what's in the horizon and what angle, like you can kind of, if you've explored enough of the world, you can kind of like, okay, I should be around this area. So I kept trying to find like where this vantage point was. And I was just on this giant rock, and I finally found it. And then a little later, I had to warp back to a tower. The first, that opening shot where Link comes up to like the plateau, and he looks out over the entire map.
Right, yeah, the one that was in all the promotional videos.
Yeah. So I did that because I was right there, and I looked, and I could see way in the distance by Death Mountain. Like I was actually on. That was the rock that I was on, trying to find that viewpoint, and I thought it's like it was so cool to see like how far I've come in this game, and I love the gameplay loop. I think there's enough to do in this game that just has pushed me to play it for this many hours. Like, remember back in I played through Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, and each game was about 40 hours, and I remember telling you, Vin, I was like, Zelda games do not need to be 40 hours long. Like, this game should have been over way before that. And I'm 52 hours into this game. I've beaten
your own words.
Yeah, and it's like I'm not done with this game yet. I've beaten all 4 dungeons. I've done 52 shrines. Nice. I've got some heavy items and stuff, but I am not ready to face Ganon yet. Like, there are still a lot of things that I need to do, and just we'll talk about a little more of this open world kind of exploratory stuff in the next topic. But I like the game loop. I love it.
It's really cool that the one thing that's amazing about the game is like how anyone can go face Ganon at any time, and it's really up to you.
It's
to
like the
make
Chrono
that
Trigger thing, right?
You make that decision when you want to do it, and so there's plenty to do to justify for 100 hours or anything like that. And once I kind of opened the map up for me, I really enjoyed the gameplay loop. I really did, like being able to teleport to a shrine or a tower that I needed to go to be able to go to a certain area to try something different or explore a new area. Once you kind of open up those shrines and you can teleport around the map, it becomes a lot more convenient compared to trying to travel a long ways to try to just open up the map. And so I think once I got to open up the map, I really started to enjoy the game more, and I really enjoyed it for the shrines. I think the shrines were like my biggest motivator. Like I said, I barely touched the regular like main quest plot stuff, and I've already done 40 shrines.
Okay,
like, that's how much I enjoyed.
You're hitting that stuff hard, yeah.
Right, so I have like 12 hearts. I almost have a full round on my other gauge for my stamina. So like the shrines are so much fun that like they really are. That once you kind of have the map open up and can teleport, it's really easy to find more shrines, and then it's more addicting, and then you're not spending like an hour to find one. You can maybe spend 20 minutes to find one instead, and it makes it a little bit more satisfying than, I think in the beginning it just takes so much time to open up that map that once you do open the map, it's super fun. Like, and
once you open the map, it's like there shouldn't even be horses in this game. Seriously,
no.
I used a horse like twice, and like I had it was supposed to like hop over some thing sticking out of the ground, and it just came to a full stop, and I had to like constantly like move around trees and like debris and stuff. I'm like, fuck this, because you have to stay on the path, otherwise the horses don't really work. So I was like, I don't use horses. You don't need horses.
I agree. I hated the horses, and I won't be using them anymore.
Right. Okay. Awesome. So yeah.
Yeah, it sounds. I mean, the game sounds great. Apart from the like couple of technical bugs, but yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to picking it up eventually. Hopefully, if the Switch gets enough support, then I'm definitely interested in picking up that console. But not yet.
Right.
Nothing on it yet.
Okay, so then shifting gears, what are your overall thoughts of Horizon? I mean, what things that stand out to you, things you like, things you don't like, the game loop, all that stuff. I've
not been sucked into a game this much in a long time. Horizon, I am absolutely loving this game, and it's so different to how it was promoted as well. Like it was sort of promoted like another typical open world game almost. Like Sony almost went through the typical sort of ringer with this PR on this game. But it is so much more than just an open world game. Like the story inside of it is pretty decent. It's actually pretty thick as well, and they didn't promote much of it. The combat is tight as hell. The gameplay loop of just going around the world and just fighting these mechanical dinosaurs or whatever animals they are, just over and over again. It just never gets old, man. Ever. I just can't get enough of it. And the amount of times I'm just wandering off into the world and just hunting stuff for the fuck of it, like I lose hours in that stuff. So the
are you getting stuff from these from like, hunting the animals?
The thing is, every time you take one of the quote unquote animals down, they drop resources, and the resources can be used to craft anything pretty much. You can craft new weapons, you can craft armor, ammo, anything. And the thing is, everything is within this wheel that you can pull up at any point. So and you can switch between different bows you got, the different type of weapons you've got, and there's a nice range of them as well, and they're all useful. But as you switch through, you can also craft ammo within the wheel without having to go into a menu and stuff, which is great. You know, like, so you just never out of the action sort of thing. And at the same time that you pull the wheel up within the combat, it just slows down the world. It doesn't actually stop the game ever. So you're constantly doing stuff, which is great.
And it makes you on your toes, especially when you're like in middle of battle and you're like, shit, I'm out of arrows.
Exactly.
Like I gotta load this up, but this thing's jumping at me, so I gotta quickly like maybe get 10 or 20 arrows instead of my like 40 arrows, and then I need to dodge out of the way really quick, or else I'm gonna die.
The thing, like the amount of times that I've dodged out of the way and then mid dodge to pull up the wheel, and you can see in the background like Aloy is diving through the air like as this freaking thing is like trying to eat her, and it's really dynamic, and it actually does look this cool pretty much most of the time.
Right.
And I'm like trying to craft fucking arrows as she's like diving through the air away from this, and like, Jesus Christ, it's awesome. Like, it's just really, really great. the way that it manages the ecology of the game as well. You never feel like you're overpowered at any point in the game, which is really rare for these sort of games, especially. Like in Shadow of Mordor or something, when I was playing that recently, you can get OP in that game pretty quickly. You know, the second that you get a few stealth items and you've got a few abilities, like, you can just wreck things, you know, like you can go through that world. But in Horizon, you always feel like it's just a struggle. Like, you've never got quite enough herbs in your pouch. You've never got quite enough resources to make all the ammo that you want. Like, you might have resources that make a crap load of normal arrows, but you won't have, like specific fire arrows or specific things that certain enemies are weaker to. But the great thing about that, though, is the enemies themselves, they're sort of like Pokemon in a weird way. Like, they've all got elemental, like, sort of properties to them. So certain enemies will have different weaknesses in different areas on their body. So like a crocodile is like, one of the crocodile things has got like these tanks on its back. If you hit them with a certain elemental sort of arrow, then it does more damage.
Did you say there was a crocodile with a tank on its back?
I'm not even gonna ask.
It's like a little ooze tube that's kind of hanging on the back of it. It's kind of
sounds pretty cool.
And the really cool part about it is like the creatures themselves. They're like a puzzle. Like each creature is like its
that's
own
exactly
puzzle.
What I was getting at, yeah.
And like when you start mixing them together, the different types and different kinds itself is a puzzle and a problem, and it's interesting of how to try to solve that in that situation. So who do I take out first, or who do I need to trap first? Like,
that's cool. Like,
and it's all on the fly as well. That's the great thing about the game. It's not like you have to think about it too much. You get so adapted to it that when you do get a group of I don't even know what to call them, like mechs, machines, whatever they are.
Yeah.
When you get a group of them together and they're all different ones and they're all like interacting with each other in weird different ways, but when they all start coming at you and you're like, all right, crap, all right, that's the deer type, and you've got to do this to take this thing down, but then that big thing over there, okay, I need to plant down these wire like mine things so I can take him out. And it's just, there's so many things going on, but it never falls under the weight of it all. You know, that's the beautiful thing about this game. It never becomes too complicated. It's always just enough to keep you engaged and to keep you on your feet.
So like, there's 3 enemy types coming at you, and you've faced them enough separately that when you get to that point, it's like you already know what you need to do. You just need to manage your time and you know, dodge properly and stuff like that. I would say Zelda is, they don't have puzzle-like enemies, which is interesting because that was kind of the whole point of all the boss battles in the old Zelda games. Like, they were a puzzle that you needed to figure out how to even hurt. There's not really any enemies like that in Zelda. It's more item management, where there are some stuff like, okay, this enemy is weak against fire, this enemy is weak against ice. But a lot of the stuff is, enemies are really, really strong, and you will die a lot in this game. Like the other day, I think I have like 15 hearts. An enemy, one swipe at me and I died. Like, I was like, holy
one shot
shit.
of an arrow and I'm gone.
Yeah. And so like headshots matter in this game as well. Like, you can knock enemies off their feet by doing a headshot. There's also the dodge mechanic where it slows down time, which I'm terrible at, by the way.
Oh, I agree. I struggle with that thing. Like,
I can never get the timing down. Yeah,
like,
no matter what
I think I got it, and then all of a sudden it screws it up. And on top of that, like, kind of comparing the two for Zelda, it's a lot of the same same enemies. It's just one maybe is taller or bigger or more powerful. They're honestly like the same thing, where as a Horizon, there's like, I counted, I think it was 22 different kinds of mechs.
Yeah, and I wish there was a bit more to the enemies kind of roaming the land in Zelda. I mean, they're pretty much like, you don't really even have to dodge. It's like, as long as you use your shield a bit and kind of jump around, you can pretty much, and have a decent weapon that's strong, you could probably pretty much like knock him down.
But the combat really doesn't facilitate that. So that's where like adding more enemy types for Zelda, I don't think would help the game anymore, because the combat is so simple.
Actually, I think you're right. Yeah,
because
that makes sense.
Because comparing Zelda to Horizon, they're completely different in combat. Where like Zelda justifiably has itself with simple combat, where Horizon is complicated combat. But
I mean, that's a massive part of the gameplay loop, right? Like,
exactly.
I would argue
it's kind of like their shrine. Like each monster is a shrine for Zelda.
If you want to put it that way, yeah. I would argue that the fighting in Zelda has never been a strong feature of the games. Like, think about all the fighting in all the Zelda games. It's never been the main point of any of the games. The games have always been about the tools and the dungeons and how you figure that stuff out. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of cool. Like, Horizon has the enemies, and then Zelda has the shrines, and then maybe these enemies that kind of populate the area to give you some stuff to do in that.
And something really cool about Horizon that I really, really liked was and this is the story is what you want it to be. And what I mean by that is, like, the story is really dense, but it's only if you ask, there's that spin wheel where you can ask more questions. So they'll tell you, like, hey, like, there's this conflict between two people. And if you want to find out more information, you can ask them. But if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. So it's not going to push that dense storyline in your face. But if you really love like, for me, I find this super interesting because it's very tribal. It's very...
Yeah, I read absolutely every single little dialogue I find. Like, I'm saying that. And some of them, man, they're like novels.
Every single conflict, every single person, I try to find out more information because I'm curious on, like, how did their tribe come to be, their values, what makes them different than the other tribe, why was there a conflict? And those are the cool things about the story that I really like. And on top of that, for, like, Vin, I know you traveled only for part of the map, and then I opened up the whole map. Even with the whole map open, I'm always surprised. Like, I'm still finding things and I played about 25 hours in, and I'm still always surprised. Like, one time I walked by and I saw two creatures going at it, and I'm trying to sneak behind them, and all of a sudden one runs into me because one creature pushed it on me, and now they're all chasing me. So, like, just like those kinds of moments where it's like, oh my god, like, this feels like a real living, breathing world where each area is really populated, and it's not like wasted space.
One of my favorite things about the game, though, I have to give a massive mention to this, is just the complete sense of culture which the game has got.
Agreed.
Like,
yeah, definitely.
The different factions, the different people are in the world. Like, yeah, some of them are a bit extreme, like the whole, you know, like the Native American tribal thing. Like, some might argue, like, yeah, like in X amount of years in the future, would we really revert to that exact stuff? Like, I don't know, but just how believable some of these people are, just, it's absolutely incredible. Like, there's one of the tribes that worship the sun called the Kaja, and they just, the way the game is written, it adds all these layers to the fact that they worship the sun. Like, the king of their lands is called the Sun King, and instead of calling them His Highness, they call him His Luminance and stuff like this. You know, just like them little things sprinkled in there. It brings the whole world to life. And it's fantastic. Oh,
and I love that the character of Aloy is like the questioner of all of them, because it gets to the point where, like, there's things where it's like, and I think they mentioned this on Game Face, to be honest, where, like, you go get somebody something, and then they're like, oh, praise the god that this appeared in front of me, and she's like, no, I got it for you.
No, I brought it to you.
I brought it to you. Don't think no sun god. There's no god there. And the fact that she questions it is very interesting concept, and I'm not done with the story yet, so I don't know where it's gonna go, but I love it that there is a character that's questioning it, because especially now in the modern age where that is an actual real thing right now, where we have such big splits in people's religious views, and some people not believing in a higher power, some people do believe in a higher power, and where people are actually saying, praise God that they helped me with this thing, and another person would be like, no, it's just with science. So, like,
it's quite allegorical in that respect.
Exactly. So it's so realistic in that way that I could really think this is real. I can imagine it actually happening, which is fantastic.
Well, to wrap this up, though, I can't give enough praise to Horizon Zero Dawn. I really do believe that Aloy should be up there with Kratos and Nathan Drake. You know, the game is that great. I mean, it does. I honestly think it is a 10 out of 10 game, even though it got 9 out of 10. I would argue that to the end of the world, pretty much. It's probably my game of the year thus far, and this year is looking awesome. By the way, like, this is a really strong year.
It really is.
So far,
I'm so excited.
I think
it's only gonna get better from here.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus, and we've got Persona 5 coming out. We've got Andromeda coming out. We might have a God of War game coming out. We might have Red Dead Redemption. It's crazy. This year is just insane. I don't even know how we're gonna try
one for the ages. It very well maybe.
Pretty much, man.
Yeah,
pretty much.
And I will say, for playing both, I would say that if you had to say which score deserved the 10 and which deserved the 9, it's got to be Horizon. Horizon, it definitely deserved that 10. And I probably would say maybe it's because of the hardware that Nintendo came out with really limited it, because maybe it could have been a 10 it could have been that 10, but
Horizon is gorgeous.
Horizon has everything. It's got it. It's got
I think it's going to be my next game. Like, I almost want to. I don't want to rush in to beat Ganon, but I kind of want to beat the game so that I can download Horizon and start playing it. Because I know when I start playing Horizon, because I've played Zelda for 50 hours. I mean, that's a long time. But I know that once I start Horizon, I think I'm gonna, get sucked in immediately. Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of Shadow of Mordor in all the better ways.
Oh, that's another game, Shadow of War. That's coming out this year too.
Oh God, just stop it, dude. Just stop it. But yeah, two great games that have come out over this week, and it's absolutely fantastic. I'm really happy that the industry is propping itself up this year. It's great. So everyone go out, and if you've got a Nintendo console, then play Zelda. If you've got a PS4, then you should play Horizon. Period.
Good.
Both great games, as we've discussed.
And from playing both, I think I didn't give it a criticism for Horizon. I feel like it does deserve one criticism that I do think I have. It has the same problem Zelda has. I think it doesn't explain some of the mechanics enough. So like, I had to figure out myself that I could upgrade my patches and upgrade my storage systems. I don't think it helped, and I didn't think it did enough to push you to say, hey, you can do this, and this is what you need. I kind of had to find those things out myself. So I think it has the same problem in that sense as Zelda did.
Evan, moving on. What are we talking about next?
We're not talking about anything. I think Mitch is going to talk about something.
Oh, yeah, Mitch. What are you going to talk about? Oh, yeah, sorry.
So it kind of...
we're so used to moving on to the podcast reload topic at the second half of the thing, yeah.
True. Yeah, my bad.
That's all right.
Mitch, what are we talking about this week, dude?
Well, it's kind of perfect because we got two big open world games, and my topic, kind of the title was like two open of worlds, and kind of like as we look, like a lot of the anticipated games for this year, a lot of them are open world games. You got like Mass Effect, Andromeda, you got Horizon, you got Breath of the Wild, you got Shadow of War, Persona 5. I mean, I could name probably 6 games, like all the games of the year.
It's getting pretty rough at time management, I'll say that.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, are we having too much... like sometimes it seems like the games are being big just to be big, and not big because the game needs to be big, and it sacrifices the quality because they're trying to be big. So kind of it's like, I'm opening up the question to you guys, like, do you think there are too many open world games, and are they too big? And what game do you think was too big of an open world that you felt like the quality fell because it was too big?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, going off the quality of the two games that we've just been discussing, I would argue against it, saying no, because they're fantastic games and they're doing really well. But there's definitely examples of games which have been too big. Definitely, I would say. Evan, have you got any straight off the top of your head?
Games that were too big?
Too big, yeah. Ones that were just like, yeah, this really could have been half the size. I mean, you just mentioned before Twilight Princess, right? Like you... Oh, no, so Skyward Sword you were talking about, right?
Yeah, well, the problem with that game is that the 3 areas that you go to, there's only 3, and the only reason the game is big is because you have to go to each of the 3 areas 3 separate times.
Right, so they're extending it.
Yeah, they're just...
By default.
By default, yeah, and that's a really, really bad way...
I hate when they do that.
Really, really bad way to do it. And Zelda had for years had a problem with sticking to the rule of 3 because of the Triforce. Like, I don't know. Like, every boss, it takes 3 hits once you figure out the puzzle. Like, everything in Skyward Sword was 3s. And it just became so predictable that it doesn't matter how big the world is or how many dozens of hours you play the game. Like, it just was to its detriment.
Yeah, I've got a good one. Ones that are always too big don't need to be that big. GTA games, which might sound weird to a lot of people, but them games do not need to be that big. Like, everything that you've got mechanically in them games, story-wise, all that sort of stuff. Like, I do not need to be driving 20 minutes across the city every time I want to do a mission, dude.
It's
like,
one of my biggest issues with that game.
Understand.
Yeah, you were constant. That game, like, if you want to get out and put in a bunch of cheat codes and cause mayhem, that is the game to play, hands down.
Right.
But
yeah, that's cool.
It's a great sandbox game.
Yeah, it's a beautifully made, super fun, great sandbox game that you can spend hours and hours just messing around. But when it comes to the missions, like, that game is A to B. That's all you do in that game is just move from A to B. Yeah, and I totally agree, Vin. Like, in GTA 5, the northern part of the map where Trevor starts.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's like a desert. It's away from the LA area. Like, I barely explored any of that map. Like, I did some missions there, and then I went back to what is it, Los Santos? I don't remember the name of the.
Yeah, it's Los Santos, I think.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just like it's so big and it's so expansive. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're exploring so much, you get to like halfway through the game where you've been exploring every nook and cranny. You get about 50% in, you're like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna run to all the main missions now because I'm gonna be here forever otherwise. So you never like fully explore the last half of the game. Like I've run into that exact problem. So.
Well, and also with a game like GTA, like, outside of the story missions and causing mayhem, there's no really reason to explore the corners of those maps because there's nothing there.
Right. They're pretty empty.
There's no treasure chests or quests. Some side quests will push you to move into other areas, but it's not one of those games where if you go to the corner of the map, you're going to find a secret area.
Yeah.
So does it open up the question, kind of like, would you rather? Because I mean, for me, I would rather have a game where the map is smaller, but I can do everything in that map. I can go in every single house. I can talk to almost every single person, and to make it more interactive to justify that person in that space, rather than like in GTA, for example, you can't go in every house. You can't go in every building.
Right.
Me and Evan have spoken about this before, and it's a question of like density, I think, where
Agreed.
I'd prefer to have a tiny space with a load of stuff to do in it versus a massive space with the same amount of stuff to do in it, but you have to travel further to get to the things. It's completely useless. And when it gets to the point where they're just filling it in with just useless crap, I mean, as an ex-employee of Ubisoft, I can be the first to admit that every like pretty much Assassin's Creed game is a lot of filler in those games.
I was about to say that was going to be my one that I think is they don't need that much because it's all the same things.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think them taking a step back and doing whatever they're doing in the future, maybe they'll learn from them lessons. But I think every game franchise which is based in open world is going to have that problem at some point, and it's sort of a lesson that needs to be learned. But yeah, I completely agree. I am totally on the side of the fence where smaller map, more dense, the better. I mean, that's why I love Skyrim so much. Like, I don't love Skyrim because of the size of the game. I love Skyrim for the amount of stuff that you can do, which is a very different thing. When you're talking about like why people enjoy that game, there's a lot of people out there that say, "Oh, the map is huge. I can go anywhere." It's like, yeah, that's great and all, but what can you do in it?
Right.
It's just doing the same thing over and over again, and it's not fun. So yeah, I'm definitely on the side of the fence where less is better in that respect.
Right. And
but how about you, Evan?
A good example of that is the Yakuza series. Okay, so the ban starts next week. The ban starts next week. So basically, Yakuza always takes place in Kamurocho, which is like a district of Tokyo, and then usually a couple other locations. So the map is really, really small, but it's not littered with side quests and towers and little things that you can collect and all this stuff. But there's still a lot to do in that space, but everything that they give you is interesting. Like, there's not 100 side stories. There's a lot of side stories, but because the map is smaller, they're able to pay more attention and expand and make interesting side stories instead of just collecting something. And I think it gives you enough to do in that small space that if it was any bigger, I think it would be to its detriment. So it does that beautifully. All right, the Yakuza ban on Podcast Reload starts now.
So about Yakuza 6, no, I'm joking. I'm not going to go and talk about
the thing about Yakuza, Oh, okay. I will say the thing about Yakuza 6 is because the map is small. Mitch, one of the cool things is you can't go into every building, but you can go into a ton of buildings and there's no loading. You just open the door and you're in Sega World. Like if you're just walking, you're like, oh, there's an arcade. You just open the door, you're in the arcade. There's Outrun. You sit down and you play it without any loading. You're hungry. You go into the convenience store. You open the door. You buy something, no loading, and then you walk out. So because the space is smaller, they were able to do that to have a more of an open world. You can just walk in and out without any loading times and stuff like that.
I remember recently when I was watching a sort of making of, or just an interview maybe, it might have just been an interview with Jonathan Blow, and he was talking about The Witness and how he wanted to design that game, and he said, like, while they were making that game, he absolutely despised, like, open worlds with just meaningless missions in, so he wanted to make every square foot of the island, which is made up in The Witness, to be something different, and you couldn't walk more than 15 seconds or something without running into something in The Witness, apparently. Like, I've yet to play the game.
I played the game, and yeah, you're correct. Like the whole island itself is literally a map. A puzzle. Like my friend platinumed it, and I don't even know how he did it because it's just. He spent maybe like a week and a half. Like, just there was so many puzzles you wouldn't even think were puzzles. Where, like, maybe I'll do one spoiler of one puzzle. There's a boat that takes you around the entire world, and you think, oh, this is just a faster way to transport from one side of the island to the other. No, you actually do a puzzle as you go around the island, and it's like, what? Like, how do you even see that? Like,
seems like there's a lot of layers in that game.
Oh, it's the most layered game I've ever seen, and that itself should get so much praise, because I don't think it got as much praise as it should have gotten for how well thought that game was. The game was fantastic.
But on the flip side of that, though, there's a lot of people that, you know, while they enjoyed The Witness, like I often hear about people that have never finished it. You know, like there's a lot of people out there that say, yeah, I love the game, but there's way too much to do, man. I don't want to sit there for like 90 hours. Like, you know, it's worth every penny.
I didn't finish it. No, I didn't.
Yeah, there you go.
You know? Yeah. So, yeah, there you go.
Same thing with a game like The Witcher as well, or The Witcher 3 as well. I've heard a lot of people have not finished that game because they feel that there's too much to do.
I didn't finish it.
Right. Okay, so here's a point to bring up. Like, I think a game like The Witcher 3 is, number one, the world is really, really big. And then number two, there's too many things to do. And that combination just makes the game very, very intimidating. One thing I will say about Breath of the Wild is, in terms of side quests, right? There's not a lot to do with the side quests. Like, it seems like Horizon Zero Dawn is way more fleshed out with the story and actually talking to people and doing side quests and getting that stuff done. But one thing I think that Breath of the Wild does really, really well is, and I know that you disagree a bit, Mitch, is I love how big the world is. And the shrines are spaced out just enough to where it's not like an A to B thing. It's like you see a tower in the distance, you're like, okay, I'm going to go there. And like, oh, you see a shrine, like, okay, I'm going to go to that shrine. And then halfway walking to the shrine, because it takes a while to get places in that game, like you said, it's so big, but then you see like a rock circle on the ground with one rock missing, and you just naturally, like, your eyes are drawn to it. You're like, what the hell is going on here? And then you see a rock like by a tree, and you're like, what is the first thing you want to do? You want to pick up the rock by the tree and then finish the circle. And once you do that, something happens. And then once you do that, then you'll see something in the distance that's like, well, there's something on top of that hill over there. And then you go that way, and then you get into a fight and you find a treasure chest. And then once you're over the hill, you'll see another thing. And then that shrine, that initial tower that you were going to go to, now all of a sudden you're like way east of what you were going to do, because they do such a great job of designing that entirely massive world where, although it takes really long to get from A to B, at least for me, Mitch, that there's enough environmental points of interest in that game that thread out like a web, that draw your eye to the next thing, to where, well, it takes a really long time. If you want to run from tower to tower, yeah, it's going to take a really long fucking time. And if your goal is to get to that tower, you're not going to be distracted by all these things on the side. It might feel like it's empty, but if you just sit there and you kind of just look at the world, because there's no pins on the map. Like, for example, in Horizon Zero Dawn or all these other open world games, like you look at the map, it's like ping, 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 ping. Here's something to do. Here's something to do. There's none of that in Breath of the Wild. The only thing that's on the map are the towers that you unlock and the shrines that you unlock. Any other pin on the map, you have to put on yourself, which going forward with open world games, I hope more games do that. The game doesn't tell you where anything is. The whole point of going to the towers is you go to the top of the tower, and you use your Sheikah stone, that switch shaped thing. So it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Let's just be honest. Yeah. But when you put that up, you can kind of zoom in and look around the map. If you see something, you have to put a pin there yourself. And
that's interesting.
I love that idea. Like, not every game should do that, but in terms of the world being big, I think the world in Zelda is massive, but they do enough with the space given. Very, very minuscule stuff sometimes. But each little thing will draw you to another shrine or draw you to another tower, and it's caused me to go completely off the rails with my initial intention of climbing a tower, and I ended up getting things out of it, not just wasting my time. But there is a lot of traversal, like I will agree, Mitch. Like, I've done a lot of nothing in that game, hoping I was getting something done, and I eventually didn't. But I like what they've done with the space given to them. Even though the world is so big, there's so many little interesting things that kind of pull you along to the next thing at your own pace. At your own pace.
That's interesting that you mentioned the aspect of like mystery and stuff like that. We do need that more in video games, and that's the reason why I got so sick of friggin' Tomb Raider, is because there's just no mystery in that game.
Yeah,
it completely killed it for me. But you saying taking them pins off the map and just letting you go, like, you're more curious, as it were, and you're more likely to get coaxed over to a certain area to check it out because you don't actually know what's there, sort of thing. So that's an interesting topic that I don't know if you guys watch any of the No Clip documentaries, which is done by Danny O'Dwyer, who recently left GameSpot. He basically left and he's doing a Patreon, but he just did a series of documentaries based around mystery within video games and how they can really help and push forward some games,
Okay, so I haven't watched that.
You should definitely check them out. And anyone listening to this, go and check it out and support Danny O'Dwyer. He's doing something really special at the minute, so give him a click and a subscribe.
Something to kind of say, I totally agree with you, Evan, on all those points you made, and I think it all boils down to what Legend of Zelda does so well is its simplicity. It's so simple that it's good.
It's definitely a Nintendo take on the open world. Like, they do things slightly differently.
Like, everything you do in the world is they're so simple concepts, but yet they are so addicting and so good. Mm-hmm. Like, in the end, like I said, like, going to those, like, I was going to those towers and strictly just being like, I'm going to lock every tower and I'll go to a shrine every now and then. But yeah, like, that does take forever. But like I said before, like, once you open it up, it's like the simplicity is so beautiful and it makes it so great.
Right. And I think one thing to kind of close this up is in terms of like open worlds, a lot of open worlds are kind of samey, right? And I like that Breath of the Wild, because I've played tons of open world games and I like them. There's a lot of good in them, and the game loop is addicting and all that type of stuff. Like, I like the Far Cry games and they have plenty of that. But I love that Breath of the Wild has done it differently, because I think it's different enough from Horizon that even after 50 hours of this game, I'm going to start Horizon and feel like it's a different experience because the open worlds are so different.
I think
that's true.
Yeah. I think the one thing you're gonna dislike going from Zelda to Horizon that I loved about Zelda is as you find the different things on the map, especially specifically like the shrines and the towers, as you find those kind of pop up on your map for you, except for obviously the ones that you put on yourself. I kind of wished after I did those tall necks that as I went to each area I discovered the creature, it popped up on my map and saying like that's where that creature's located, instead of saying oh, here are where all the creatures are located, which is cool. Like, that's what makes it the open world so great for that game, and that each area is populated with certain kind of creatures, so you can kind of locate certain creatures to get certain resources. But it would have been cooler to have it Zelda-like, where when I found a creature in that area, then it popped up on my map and said that's where that creature is. That would have been cooler.
I totally agree with that, but I think the reason why it works in Horizon, why Horizon gets like let off on that, I would say, is because there's a lot of mystery within Horizon's story rather than within the world sort of
That's
thing.
true.
There is mystery within the world. Like, for the first 30 hours, I didn't know where the hell it was in the in the world. I was like, where the hell is this place? Like, there's all these buildings and stuff. Like, is it a city? What city is it? And it took me a while to figure it out, and it's like, oh, okay, it's finally clicked. But because the mystery is in a different respect, like, you sort of let that slide because you're constantly thinking, okay, like, I know there's a tall neck over there. It's going to open up some of the map so I can see what's over there, but I've still got no idea what is actually over there sort of thing, even though there's an icon pinging it. Like, what's it going to look like? I have no idea, because there's so much diversity in Horizon with weather and different terrains and stuff, and just it's just a fucking great game. Everyone should go and play it. I can't plug it enough.
Yeah, this podcast can go on for another 2 hours probably.
It really could. But we should definitely wrap it up.
Yeah.
But open worlds. It's always, I think it's a topic that's going to go on until the end of time, pretty much, while we're in this industry. So it's always interesting to check in on it.
I think it would be cool to see, like, at the end of the year this year, after all these open worlds, to see how much we're still enjoying open worlds, or if we're totally freaking sick of it and just being like, what the hell?
We'll check back in the end of 2017.
If I see another mini map again, I'm gonna kick something. Like,
we'll see. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Right.
Okay. Cool. But yeah, coming up to the end of the podcast, Mitch, thanks a lot for coming to join us again, man. It's been really cool to have you on again.
Oh, of course. Anytime.
It's nice. It's nice to have the two-way perspective of playing both the games. I don't think I've heard anyone on any other podcasts that have had that too much. So it's cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, people seem to have been talking about them separately.
Like one or the other, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's nice to get that perspective. If you do want to come onto the podcast like Mitch has, just let us know. You can either let us know on Sifted. You can either message Evan. He's at the stand user, You can just put the stand user and message him on there. Let him know where you are in the world and what microphone you got, and we'll try and get you on ASAP. If you're not around on Sifted, then you can also message us on Twitter at podcast_reload, and you can let us know on there, and we'll try and get back to you straight away. We normally have a pretty decent turnaround. We've been pretty terrible over the past month, admittedly, because I've been immigrating and getting married and doing visa stuff and pulling my own hair out. Yeah, right, and dodging the searchlights of Donald Trump. That was a joke. I'd take that back. Anyway, if you do want to come and join us, we're a friendly bunch, and we're always welcome to new people. So come and hang out with us. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, we're gonna sign off with any goodbyes and then Twitter handles you got. Mitch, what is your Twitter handle and any sign off you got?
I'm at Mitch Sikor, MITCHSIKOR, and then I have a YouTube channel and I relaunched it. And quick funny story for you guys that do editing. I relaunched it in December, and I did my first back onto my regular podcast, and then I was going to do the pre Game Awards show where I did these nice graphics and I had each game on there and I had my winner circled, and I spent 3 hours on that. So I recorded and I put all the stuff on there, and as it's turning it into video, I was like, oh, I'm going to delete all these pictures that I made because I need more hard drive space. It'll clear up faster. And no, not all the pictures loaded up in there. So it stopped and did an error, and I re-cleared my recycling box. I was like, crap, I guess I never am going to do podcasting ever again.
Sucks.
But here you are on a podcast.
That's true. I will be coming back to it in May. I really want to get back into it once May kicks in. So I kind of have a new format. Just want to see all them
texture files that say missing image just all over this video.
Right, exactly. So yeah, so I'll be relaunching that back up in May. I got a cool new format that I really that I like doing it. I like it. It's fun. It's just that moment I was like, I give up.
Yeah, that's definitely a rage quit moment right there. Evan, what about you, man?
What? Oh, sorry. I'm actually
Twitter handle sign off.
No, I'm playing Breath of the Wild right now. I got to find this guy. He's gonna let me know about this picture I have. I'm in the desert.
Give us a Twitter handle.
At the stand user. You can catch me at the Sifted Breath of the Wild Giant Bomb, and Twitter. Then how about yourself?
I am at Vin Hillart on Twitter. You can find me and some of my finger paintings on there. I'm actually working on a game right now. I'm working on a little iOS game, so keep an eye out. I should be retweeting some of that stuff pretty soon. I've got a team of 5 guys working on it now. 4 guys and 1 lady. It was International Women's Day yesterday, so give it a shout out. We got a lady developer. She's doing pretty well.
Cool.
So it's all good. So yeah, promoting the ladies. They're always welcome. Don't know where I'm going with that, but fuck it.
I think I know.
Because you're married.
Yeah, I'm married to a lady as well. Yeah, this is gonna go somewhere.
This isn't gonna get you a girl right now.
This isn't gonna help.
All right.
But yeah, anyway, guys, thanks for listening, tuning in. As always, hopefully we'll be back next week, if not the week after, because why not? Why not a bi-weekly podcast?
Yeah, podcast reload Fortnite. Make the graphic, Vin. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And by let's do it, I mean, could you do that for us?
Just don't delete the image before you put it on the video.
Right.
I might actually, like, on the video template, I might like image missing or something. That was just like behind us.
Oh, sure. That'd be all right. Works. All right. I think we're done.
Yep. All right. Catch you guys later. Ta-ta.
See ya. Go play some video games. Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, play some Horizon.
Play some Breath of the Wild, too. Play both. Okay, I guess the end of that then. Wah, wah.
Yeah.
All right.
Womp, womp, womp.